Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 9 of NETLORE. This is, of course, your favorite host, Cybershell. We also have Bernie here.
Hey guys, what's up?
So yeah, you might have, I guess there's no point beating around the bush. You've seen the title of the video. Welcome to the Pepsi logo episode, subtitle, Fuck You, it's a real episode. This is just gonna be more of a chill. There's one thing in particular I want to get to discuss. People, if you know what it is, you're already like, okay, I already know exactly how this episode's gonna go. And if you don't, you might be a little like, what the fuck is going on with this episode? So let's I guess let's jump right into it. So this is actually not what I want to talk about, but let's just get this out of the way.
Oh man, this is relevancy.
I was gonna say, like, did you even know about this?
No, I did not know this.
Upcoming fall 2023 Pepsi rebranding event. There is going to be they're going to change the logo again. I don't know if you heard about this. In America, we don't really have like, I mean, we sort of have to like, we don't have like gods the way they did in ancient like Greece and Rome, but we do have like these corporations that we all worship, and like, so it's kind of a big deal when one of these like logos change. Like you see these logos, they're blasted in your brain 4,000 times a day, subliminally, like liminally, just from like seeing a Pepsi can in your day-to-day life. Like you're just constantly blasted with these logos. So one of them changes, it's kind of a big deal. Now again, this isn't actually what the episode's about. I thought this is, yeah, like you were saying, it's like a current event. It's going to be relevant, and it is somewhat relevant, as you'll come to see. But I just thought it'd be interesting. So on the left, you can see we have the current Pepsi logo that we all know and love so much because we all love Pepsi. And then on the right, we can see they're going with more of a darker shade of blue, and it's kind of like a throwback logo. It's not an exact copy of a previous one they had, but
it's supposed to be vintage, I guess.
It's kind of vintage, right? That's like, I think that's what they're going for. So they also posted this as one of their like Pepsi's like marketing things or whatever the fuck they call it. So here's like the theoretical upcoming can design. Now I don't know why in this marketing material the logo is larger than the can. I feel like that's probably not how it's going to look when the cans are actually finalized. Although I have to say that would be kind of cool, honestly, if the logos were bigger than the can.
Dude, that would, imagine like accidentally brushing your arm and just like accidentally just giving yourself a cut. Like that'd suck.
So that's what the new logo is going to be. I thought we could take a quick look back through the previous logos of Pepsi throughout history, all the way from 1962 to 2009, up through before the first major rebrand, as far as I'm concerned. These are all sort of like iterations on the same thing. I mean, I guess you could say like in 91 that was kind of a major change to the italicized Pepsi. That's sort of like the one I grew up with. That's like when I think of Pepsi, you're probably even more familiar with the current Pepsi logo. Now, I could go over the history of Pepsi, like from the Wikipedia article, and, say shit like, why is it red, white, and blue? Okay, it's because the globe has its origins in the 1940s when Pepsi unveiled a new bottle cap that featured the script Pepsi wordmark in a white field of waving tricolor meant as a show of U.S. patriotism during World War II.
What the hell?
I could go over all the history of the Pepsi logo and, where it came from. Just one problem. Who gives a fuck? I mean, seriously, it's just a logo, guys. Who seriously gives a fuck about this thing? It's just a little color thing they put on the can.
There's a Pepsi historian out there somewhere.
Who gives a fuck?
They might be listening to this.
Subtitle, like, seriously, who gives a shit? I'm beating around the bush here. Let's just sort of, I forgot I had this slide in here. A Pepsi logo versus South Korean flag. Who did it better? Vexillologists in chat. I don't know why I always say chat when I mean comment section. I'm like fucking Twitch brained, but I was gonna say just, people are always like, oh, there's just because they're both based on the yin yang or whatever. It's like, but to me, that's no coincidence. Anyways, the main thing I was gonna talk about is related to the 2009 rebrand. Again, back in late 2008, early 2009, we were looking at the old Pepsi logo, and it was getting up there. It was covered in weird dew droplets, and everyone could tell. It's not just a perfectly good logo. It's too old. It's time to be put out to pasture. So Pepsi, they were looking for a rebrand, and rebrand they did with a more minimalistic kind of, I mean, I don't know. I don't need to explain what the fucking current Pepsi logo looks like. Again, I know I was explaining this I was apologizing to Bernie because I was saying like, we're getting better about this. I say this every episode. Like, I'm sorry, we're always doing such visual heavy issues. And I have another episode I was working on that's going to be way easier on the ears. You don't have to be constantly looking at the screen, but sorry, it couldn't be helped. I just really needed to make this episode, and just by the nature of what we're talking about, it's a kind of visual one. But I'll do my best to visually explain my visual aids, or to verbally explain them, rather. But as I was saying, I don't need to explain what the current Pepsi logo looks like. You know what it looks like. You've seen what a can of Pepsi looks like.
I miss those older logos, and like the ones on the left where there's like a name for it. I think it's like Fruitiger Arrow or something. I miss that. I guess people also group it in with just Y2K shit.
Right. It's one of those things where I'm used to it now. I don't care. Believe it or not, I was just joking earlier. I'm not such a corporate slave where I'm seriously seething about the Pepsi logo like 14 years later. But I will admit when they first unveiled it, I was like, not really a fan. It looks like it's trying to be like fucking Obama logo or something. And the new font is like, it's like that all lowercase. It looks so much wimpier than the original font.
Yeah, the original like gets you hyped. Like when you see that shit on a vending machine.
I know, look, it's like so intense of a font.
Like why is it wet? Like why is it covered in water?
They're just trying to make it look more extreme. That was the final one before the rebrand. Anyways, I will say the one thing I do kind of like about the current Pepsi logo is I like how in the shape of the E is kind of meant to be reminiscent of the original Pepsi globe as the proper term for it. But anyways, yeah, the lowercase lettering. Anyways, the point is, I was never that crazy about it, but it's just one of those things where they, the chorus, they just changed it. Minimalism was everyone was so crazy and they were in love with minimalism. I guess, you'll still see that in like Silicon Valley rebrands, people there's like just a trend toward minimalism. But the point is, when this came out, one of the top posts on r/funny on reddit.com was this little meme image where it was a Pepsi logo or response. And I guess this was an illustration by someone called Lawrence Yang, where it's the new Pepsi logo.
I saw this, but I forgot about it.
Right. Yeah. I saw this when it was new, and I literally think about it, not every single time, but like, it will still randomly pop into my head when I think about the new Pepsi logo. They've edited it to look like a fat guy with his stomach exposed by just adding little red arms and blue legs and a little head. And it's quite a humorous little send up. But that's actually not even the most interesting part about this reddit.com post, because you see the top comment was created by an account called Pepsi Sucks, and it reads as follows: haha, I've created an account just to post this. I have a funny story, which I probably should not share at all with Reddit, or really anyone. I work freelance in the industry, and one of my clients did some of the Pepsi spots, which are on air. During the initial treatment, the advertising agency which won the Pepsi contract for the redesign sent over the design guidelines and a presentation on the design process of the new logo. I happened to be able to overhear a conversation regarding the new logo, and actually had to interrupt because I've never heard a discussion over anything so ludicrous in my life. I happen to nab a copy of the PDF, and I have to share it. It really hammers in the stereotype of advertising in general, and just the complete idiocy that goes into marketing. I really suggest reading till the end. It just gets better and better. And then they presented a few different download links, something they called the Pepsi Gravitational Field. So this is a real leaked...
Yeah, they're a fucking turncoat.
Pitch, or I mean, I guess they're in the field. They didn't work on this specifically, but yeah, I know what you mean. So this was a leaked 2008 pitch document by a group called the Arnell Group.
Breathtaking.
Yes, breathtaking. That's the name of their design strategy, I guess. There's still some things I'm not 100% clear on. There's just, again, I'm so upset that I don't have like a good, cool guy, like deep voice, because otherwise I could do this whole thing in like a Don Draper, like to really sell home that this was like some guy was really in like a boardroom and to pitch this to like a group of pigeon-brained executives before deciding, whether they were going to redesign their logo or whatever. So we're going to go through this entire document. It's only 27 pages long, don't worry. Like I said, I'm going to do my best to sort of pitch it and explain to you the imagery if you just happen to be listening on Spotify or something. So, breaking the code for innovation, from convention to innovation. This is section A. Now, the trajectory of innovation. How do we move from convention to innovation? Well, as you can see, there's just a straight line between convention and innovation. B. By investing in our history and brand ethos, we can create a new trajectory forward. So now you can see there's an intersecting blue line called DNA with the Pepsi logo, which is going across the line. All right, C. The investment in our DNA leads to breakthrough innovation and allows us to move out of the traditional linear system into the future. Now you can see there's an additional blue line coming out, curving out of the Pepsi logo towards the future. I guess both these lines are going towards the future. This one's actually like taking longer to get there technically, but anyways, D. Continued investment provides us with a clear resource for reinvention. Now you can see there's a smaller Pepsi logo with a line going back to it from the future, back to the future.
What does this
clearly,
mean?
I don't think it could be more obvious what this means, Bernie. You're really trying to tell me you don't understand the DNA to the future pipeline with the arrows and the things? All right.
Was there anyone who wasn't confused?
Moving on to section B, the origins of creative endeavors. I mean, that's a pretty big topic. The origins of creative endeavors, universal design principles, and PepsiCo's brand heritage. The Pepsi ethos has evolved over time. The vocabulary of truth and simplicity is a recurring phenomenon in the brand's history. It communicates the brand in a timeless manner and with an expression of clarity. Pepsi Breathtaking builds on this knowledge. True innovation always begins by investigating the historic path. Going back to the roots moves the brand forward as it changes the trajectory of the future. So like back in 1910, we had the Pepsi bottle. In 1970, we had the Pepsi can. What will we have in 2009? Something even more fucked up and crazy than either of those two options, that's for sure. Now, breathtaking is a strategy based on the evolution of 5,000 years of shared ideas in design philosophy, creating an authentic constitution of design. This chart documents the origin and evolution of intellectual property. Now, this looks confusing. This is actually just a regular timeline in a normal sequence.
What the fuck? That's fucking crazy.
I don't know why they presented it with these like circles. I mean, a flat line would have just been perfectly fine as far as I could tell.
Well, that's what makes it breathtaking, don't you see?
This is the latest innovation in art and communication in general. See, 3,000 years ago, we had the Hindu tradition of numerical harmony as spatial organizer. 600 BC, we had Pythagoras doing all his shit. Boom, 300 BC, Euclid, got that golden ratio going on. And then there's feng shui, the Vitruvian principle, the art of building, the Vitruvian Renaissance. You gotta have that guy, in the circle with extra arms and legs. And then, the Cartesian coordinate system, a Mobius strip, that's definitely on the same level as Pythagoras, the Mobius strip. That's a classic over there. And then, anyways, all the way up to 2009, we have Pepsi introducing breathtaking, which need I remind you, breathtaking is a strategy based on the evolution of 5,000 plus years. That's a lot of fucking years.
That's such like a crazy legacy to proclaim yourself on the top of.
Now, we need to take a look at the iconic geometry, possibly even the sacred geometry of these original PepsiCo, packaging. So derived from the PepsiCo's rich packaging, a legacy and inspired by some of its earliest forms and proportions, breathtaking revitalizes the essence of PepsiCo in creating an iconic shape for the brand. So look at all these bottle shapes throughout the history of PepsiCo. What the fuck was going on in 1915? They had some crazy shit going on with those bottles. Anyways, if we were just to superimpose all the different bottle shapes into one mega bottle, that's something we're working on over here. Retain the best of PepsiCo's history and shape the next PepsiCo bottle into an icon for the brand. Remember the crazy fucked up bottle they had in Back to the Future Part 2? We gotta do something like that. Here's an interesting section. This is probably my least favorite section. Breathtaking. Tracing the Pepsi DNA. Although we go all the way back to the initial Pepsi Cola logo from 1898. Here we go. The 1896 Pepsi geometries, the perimeter oscillations. The Pepsi DNA finds its origins in the dynamic of perimeter oscillations. This new identity manifests itself in an authentic geometry that is to become proprietary to the Pepsi culture. So basically, see how there's a bunch of curves on the logo? What if we extrapolated all those curves into circles or spheroids or ovals?
Who was drawing this stuff? Who was doing this in meetings?
Look at this. This is sacred Pepsi geometry. And now what if we just did that with all the logos? And that's the entire middle half of this fucking essay, or not essay, this pitch document. It's just all these different shapes. You can kind of make out the Pepsi Cola.
Dude, what? How did they get to this conclusion? What conversation?
I don't understand why this was such a long section. This one, I'm going to be perfectly honest here.
Dude, it's to hype up all the board meeting members.
Yeah, again, it's to make it seem like they really know what they're doing in terms of making shapes. Now, here we are. I'm just going to skip all that shit. Section C. Towards innovation, projecting Pepsi's future, applying universal laws to establish a blueprint for the brand. So, of course, the creation of identity. We're gonna have to take what are some precedents when it comes to this field? Artists and architects have proportioned their works to approximate the golden ratio, especially in the form of the golden rectangle, in which the ratio of the longer side to the shorter side is the golden ratio. They believe this proportion to be universally and aesthetically pleasing. The golden ratio plays an essential role in the human perception of beauty. And then there's some, of course, classic examples of, the golden ratio. Everyone's read JoJo Part 7. We all know about the golden ratio. Now, here's something that's even more interesting than that. Okay, so a creation of identity, a blueprint for proportions. So figure A, everyone knows the golden golden ratio. You start with the square, you put the circle with the line, then you make the curved line, and then you make a rectangle, and then you just keep doing that, and you make the spiral. Bada bing, bada boom. Now, what if I told you that there was the Pepsi ratio? Now, I know everyone listening to this right now on Spotify has like an IQ of 14 million, so you're just gonna have to listen to the steps that I'm saying out loud, and you're gonna have to visualize this, and I know you can do it because it's so easy. So
It
first,
doesn't help. I'm gonna be honest. Looking at this does not help for anyone listening.
first, draw a circle with the diameter d equals a. So for sense, you know, it doesn't matter. Just draw a circle in your mind. Make a circle. Now, step 2. Find a center and draw 2 same size circles with the diameter d equals 1/2 a. So it's like a circle with 2 little circles stacked inside of it. All right, okay, so here's a little tricky step. Rotate the center line 45 degrees, copy one of the smaller circles, and place its center on the intersection of the larger circle and the rotated center line. There's the 2 circles in the big circle. Now there's a 3rd smaller circle in the middle of the bottom right quadrant if you were to divide it, and it's like the center is intersecting on 45-degree angle. Anyway, so step 4, draw a circle that lies within the larger one. Its diameter is such that it touches all 3 circles in exactly and only in one point. And there's also going to be a smaller circle inside the larger circle on the left side, sandwiched between the 2 big circles in the center of the big circle. I mean, the 2 medium circles. To the left of that, now there's a small circle. Okay, do we understand? Are we all on the same page? Step 5, rotate the center line by 56 degrees. Now place the smallest circle with its center on the intersection of the largest circle and the rotated center line. Now this is where it gets a little confusing. It's starting to look like a watch over here. But basically, just do what I said. I mean, it's pretty obvious. I think it's pretty much everyone's on the same page. Step 6, the Pepsi brand is created by intersecting circles with a set proportion to each other. The coordinates are marked X, of course. I mean, duh. Now, taking that part of the curvature of the bottom right circle, there's a smaller circle inside of that circle, and that's step 7. That is the Pepsi ratio. It's created by 2 simple circles that are set in ratio to each other, the golden ratio. So it's basically just the golden ratio with fucking circles. Boom! That's it. That's it. Beautiful. Look at that beautiful logo. The Pepsi ratio is aesthetic geometry.
That makes it sound so fucking genius.
Dude, the Pepsi ratio is... I know, you thought the new logo was just some bullshit, some douchebag in an advertising firm whipped up. No. It's the most genius invention of all time, the Pepsi ratio.
It's so fucking cool. They make it sound so amazing.
It's incredible. It's breathtaking, you might even say. The creation of identity, scales, and dynamic relationships. So, the geometry of aesthetics. Section A, proportion. The golden ratio establishes a proportion of one part, A, relative to another, B. By playing by these rules, produce aestheticism that is universally accepted to be in balance and harmony. The Pepsi aesthetic respects these rules. The brand identity can be derived from 2 circles that have a set relation to each other. And then, of course, here are some visual circles and squares. You remember squares? And now there's also circles. So basically, boom. It's basically just what we went over all in one thing. That's the Pepsi logo, baby. Now, creation of identity part 2. How do we determine how to do this? So there's something we need to look at on Earth called dynamic forces. So figure A, the Earth's geodynamo, a naturally occurring electric generator in fluid motion, generates and sustains Earth's magnetic field, of course. Now, here's also figure A. It's the Pepsi globe. It's the good old classic Pepsi globe. I mean, that's basically the same thing, right? Now here's section B, magnetic fields. Magnetic fields exert forces on inner and outer surfaces of the Earth. Similarly, within the Pepsi energy fields, there's symmetrical energy fields are in balance. I mean, if you look at the Pepsi globe, it's the red and the blue, it's kind of like a fucking magnet, right? I mean, that's basically the same thing. Now, there's also something called magnetic dynamics, where the magnetic field is impacted by sun radiation and wind motion. And similarly, there's Pepsi globe dynamics, where the emotive forces shape the gestalt of the brand identity. So, they're trying to say the set exact ratio of the smile, or whatever you want to call it, can change depending on, cultural forces, I suppose. So, creation of identity, multiple perspectives. This is what it would be like if you were to view an object, but imagine also that object could perhaps rotate 15 degrees at a time. You might even say that you would observe the same object, but it would look differently, or maybe this is what it would be like if you were to watch a coin flip.
Oh, it's like, so there's so many different ways to interpret what the emotion is.
There's so many different ways to interpret the different emotion based on this is what they call the smile of the new Pepsi logo. So look at all these different, one identity, multiple emotions. So you've got laughing, you've got smiling, you've got fucking smiling. You've got smiling. You've got more different smiling. You've got smiling with different eyes. You got smiling. This guy, he's smiling. That guy, he's smiling. This guy, he's smiling. We know what's up with him. Oh, this guy's really smiling.
That one's snoring.
I don't know what the fuck that guy's up. That guy's not smiling. I don't know what the fuck that guy's problem is. We're just gonna ignore that guy. Now, obviously, I don't even need to explain what the point of that section was. I believe that part is self-explanatory. Now, creation of identity, a multi-dimensionalized brand. Think about how motion transforms 2D into 3D, like from a 2D circle to a 3D sphere. A sphere is defined as a surface formed by a rotating circle about any diameter. Similarly, the brand identity is dimensionalized through motion. So imagine that the logo is like on the side of the can. And again, what if the logo was like coming out of the can? Wouldn't that be freaking epic? I mean, it's not, but that would be freaking epic as far as you ask me, as far as I'm concerned. Here's something that's definitely real because I've heard about it before. It's called color theory, folks. Creation of identity, color theory. So on the left, you can see we have the objective color / subjective emotion. Each color on the color wheel is associated with a subjective, psychic, and emotional value. So let's say you want a drink that's cool. Well, we're going to have to look over here on the right for the breathtaking color palette. Is derived using a scientific method of color assignment based on a product's essence and primary features. So if you want a cool drink, you would make it blue, basically. Duh. I mean, have you ever played Sonic? He's blue, he's cool. That's why Pepsi is blue. Now, okay, hold on. Here's a problem. What if you want something that's cool and fresh? Now, what you're going to do is bump it up the color wheel a little bit so it's still blue, but it's just a lighter part of blue. Boom. That's Pepsi Max. That's Pepsi Max. What the fuck is Pepsi Max again? What is Pepsi Max? Pepsi Max. No sugar, no calories, caffeine free. How is that max? That's like Pepsi minimum. Anyways, whatever. The point is, so if you need something cool and fresh, boom, we got you. Now, here we got something completely different. What if you need something energetic and balanced, for your caffeine-free Pepsi? Well, you just shift the colors all the way up to yellow / orange. That's energetic or balanced. Again, you might be wondering, why is energetic for the caffeine-free Pepsi? It's because you are so energetic, you don't have time for extra caffeine in your system. You have no room for that, but you still look Pepsi head. You got to be drinking Pepsi. There's never a good reason to not be drinking Pepsi. So that's if you're energetic and balanced. Now, what if you're cool, rich, and fresh, and you're basically every single color all at once because you're that cool, rich, and fresh? Well, they would just all blend together to be gray, I guess. So that's gray.
They're lying to themselves about these products.
Boom. Diet Pepsi. Everyone knows Diet Pepsi is cool, it's rich, it's fresh. Now,
they make them sound better than the original.
Yes, Pepsi is cool, but if you're cool, rich, and fresh, you got the Diet Pepsi for that. And that the most appealing color of all, light gray. But what if you don't want cool, rich, and fresh? What if you need to be cool, light, and fresh? Well, that's the color of caffeine-free Diet Pepsi, which is this sort of off-white, I don't know, cummy looking color. But
yeah, whatever. I don't like that color.
We're moving on to the breathtaking, this next section. Creation of identity, gravitational pull. This is probably my favorite section. Now, there's the attraction theory, the Pepsi proposition, as it will. And it's not sexual. Don't say it sounds sexual. The establishment of a gravitational pull just shifts from a transactional experience to an invitational expression. So this is what the typical path of light coming off of like Earth looks like. Light as represented by this little star just shines off in a straight line. Similarly, the typical shopping aisle in your regular shopping market is you would just be walking down a straight line to the end of the aisle here. But boom. What if there was a light path with a gravitational pull? Well, the gravity can actually bend the light. Similarly, we have to look at the gravitational pull of Pepsi. Now, if we were to put Pepsi in the aisle, the consumer would see the Pepsi, which they recognize, and they would bend their trajectory would curve towards the Pepsi.
How is this fucking real?
Similarly, there is a relativity of space and time, and we believe if we can convince stores to have an entire Pepsi aisle, we could bend them so hard that they're not only going to the end of the aisle, they're walking through the fucking aisles and just smashing through the display because they're that intrigued by the Pepsi. I don't think the person who created this knows how aisles work typically, but we're going to be redefining what it means to be an aisle in a supermarket. This is what it would be like at the Pepsi aisle. If you were envisioning some kind of straight line, the Pepsi aisle is a three-dimensional dome of Pepsi product arrangements and experiences. I'm going to be perfectly honest, I have no idea what the fuck this is actually supposed to mean because...
Yeah, it looks like you can crawl
you
in
don't
it.
have to walk down an aisle because we need consumers to be have their senses overwhelmed, information overload, surrounded by Pepsi. Just blast them with the brand until they're completely aware of it. Now, this is the final page of the document, and I believe it'll elucidate everything and clear up any potential questions you may have had. If there was anything that you found was a little, confusing or fuzzy about this presentation, this will clear it up. So, the creation of identity. The Pepsi universe. So, figure A, universe expansion. The universe expands exponentially, F times X equals E to the power of X, where 1 light year equals 671 million miles per hour, of course. So you can see here, this is X equals 1 light year. Similarly, there is Pepsi. There is the Pepsi planet, as it has been known. What if there was the Pepsi orbits? Dimensionalize exponentially. Those are both words. You've heard those words before.
What does that mean?
Here's figure B. What if X instead of X equals 1 light year? What if X equaled 2 light years? And you would have to make a orb at least twice as big as the universe, as far as I'm concerned. Now, remember what I said about the Pepsi planet? I'm going to need you to imagine some kind of 2 intersecting orbits of some kind, creating a sort of perpendicular Pepsi galaxy, as it were. Each spinning Pepsi planet of its own identity, including the fucking up weird sleeping one. Now, the final visual aid.
What?
If you thought X equaled 2 light years was cool, what if X equaled fucking 8 light years? How cool would that be? That would be fucking sick, bro.
What was this supposed to convey?
And the final thing would be, what if there was a Pepsi frickin' universe? Like, wouldn't that be cool? You might notice that the Pepsi's orbiting around. Does that remind you of anything? That's right. It's like the paths on an atom, because each atom is its own Pepsi universe. Like, It was a lot like that cartoon Steven universe, but imagine it was Pepsi's instead of fucking rocks.
What were they talking about in this fucking meeting? What were they imagining for this?
They were imagining the Pepsi universe. I don't know what you don't understand. It's the Pepsi universe.
It's insane. These people.
So if you ever are sitting around being like, God, I have such a bullshit job. Imagine this is your job. You make this document and you get paid over $1 million for it, because that's how much they got paid for this. And I mean, you've seen what Pepsi logos look like. They said yes. They saw this and they were like, yes, we're taking that logo. We want that logo. I mean, they were convinced. So I mean, are you trying to say you're smarter than the CEO of Pepsi? Because I think...
It's just, if it was so good, why'd they change it?
The presentation is for high IQ people. If you're a low IQ listener, you might not have understood what I was talking about. But my fellow high IQs are nodding along the whole time, being like, not only does this make perfect sense, but it's everything I've always thought before, but I couldn't put into words because I didn't have the breathtaking design strategy.
Yeah, I'd actually heard about most of this.
So, reactions. The initial reactions to when this came out were people were like, there were like news articles written, like a bunch of them.
I didn't even think about the fact that this could have been fake.
Is this even real? Is this like a hoax or what? No, it's real. They confirmed it.
It's real?
It was eventually confirmed. It's real. Yes, it's real. Another interesting reaction to this was Lemon Demon has a song called Redesign Your Logo, and it was actually like written in response to like how silly this design document was. I don't know how popular that song was, but yeah, like this little design doc, it made its rounds around the internet. It wasn't like people saw it, people reacted to it.
Yeah, I had heard about it. I'd never read anything like specific about it. I've just seen like images here and there of like Pepsi universe, but I didn't know it was this fucking insane. It's like a schizo post.
Well, it was made by this guy called Peter Arnell. It was confirmed to be real, of the Arnell group, as mentioned. It wasn't exactly, if you were in the industry, you were probably like, oh, of course this is real or whatever. So Peter Arnell was actually, again, credit where credit is due. He was a pretty successful designer and branding executive. Some of these like people have like kind of nebulous job titles. Like, so we like worked with like architecture and stuff too. But basically, he's mostly known for like working on some successful ad campaigns, known for his work on DKNY. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know anything about fashion, but like apparently, he's one of those types of, guys, and apparently he was a complete piece of shit boss. I found a lot of testimony that he was a total psycho to work with. Like, you imagine like the most stereotypical out of touch, like executive CEO guy who's like,
oh, a sadist.
Screaming at employees. Yeah, exactly.
Holy
like
shit.
Screaming at employees' faces. He was actually sued by 4 women who worked for him all the way back in 1997, which was like before they even took this like shit seriously at all. It was settled out of court, so it wasn't like, But yeah, it's just cases like examples of like, oh, he made one of his personal assistants like sit under his desk as a punishment, or like he'll make them get on the ground and do push-ups in front of clients and stuff like that.
Jeez.
One of the rumors, again, I can't say this is just not necessarily substantiated in a court of law, but like there's rumors like he would like bend over like an assistant and plate her ass like the bongos or something. But basically, he was a bad boss. He's not a good boss. Or like I said,
sounds like a piece of shit.
You did have to give credit for him. He was successful. He did a lot of good advertising stuff. I'm not saying he wasn't a good advertiser.
Now I don't feel bad about saying I didn't think the Pepsi logo was that cool, but
yeah, I was gonna say I just want to get that out of the way. I'm not trying to cancel the guy or whatever, but I'm not trying to. He's not based. He's just a typical CEO psycho.
Well, I will say I didn't think his design document just sounded like a lie, like a really well crafted lie by like a Saul Goodman-esque con man to like convince you of its importance.
Right. Well, I was say it's like to be like a CEO, a marketing CEO, you have to be a bullshit artist, basically. Like that. That basically is the job. So it's like, yeah, he's good at his job. They got him to do it. But here's another example. This happened right around the same time. The Arnell group was tasked to do a redesign of the Tropicana box.
I like the older one better.
Yeah, you might. As I say, back in 2009, they rebranded from their iconic like the orange with with like a straw coming out of it into this like super chic, modern looking style.
That was his fault.
That was his fault. So this design lasted for less than 2 months. Okay, so they invested $35 million in the redesign and ad campaign. It launches on January 8th, 2009. And by 2 months later, sales have already dropped by 20% because people were going to the store and they were looking for the Tropicana and they couldn't find it. You know what I mean? That represented a $30 million loss approximately. And then they announced on February 23rd, they were already pulling the new redesign and going back. So if you don't remember seeing that on store shelves, it's because it was only there for less than 2 months or so. And it cost them about $50 million. And that was right around the same time as this whole disaster was going on when the Pepsi document got leaked or whatever. And I guess Peter Arnell was like, he was kind of worried that people were gonna like, it was like a 1-2 thing to his reputation. So he allowed this guy, this Newsweek reporter called Daniel Lyons, to follow him around for 2 days. And there's again all the links to all this stuff in the description, because I highly recommend reading this article because it has all sorts of just crazy details. There's so many random details about this guy that I really just didn't even have time to fit into, but he comes across like a total psycho in the article. Like he's just constantly just like ranting and raving about things. And like, there's lots of little details like how he's like a man-child or whatever with like a, toy collection. I guess when you're a rich millionaire, you can buy whatever kind of crap you want. That part was the more humanizing part to me. Apparently he eats like 20 oranges a day or whatever. But there's this great quote where he was just like in that article towards the end where he's like, it's all bullshit. A logo on a can of soda? Please, my life is bullshit, which is just, that's hilarious.
Do you think he meant it? Was he just saying like it was all bullshit?
The whole 2-week thing in front of the reporter guy, it's like basically all one big performative thing. Like I said, as a bullshit artist, like his whole life was basically one big performance. That's what the thesis of the article ended up being. But basically, I'm just going to super quickly breeze through the aftermath here, which is that he ended up getting fired from the Arnell group, which he had sold ownership of it, but he was still like involved in it to this other group or this other company or whatever. But he ended up getting fired from his own company, and then he ended up suing them over like the collection of rare books he amassed while he worked there, which technically belonged to the group or whatever. So he had to sue them for his book collection, which was eventually settled out of court. And now I think he's just like, he's not really doing anything. He's like publishing books of photography, and he like studies architecture and stuff. Basically, I don't know, who gives a fuck. I don't really give a shit about this guy's life anymore. He's just an odd duck. That's my last final point, which is that there's really a lot of just weird lore about him. I was gonna say, I was like, I don't even really want to do a more in-depth look on this guy. He's kind of an asshole, but I found a pretty good YouTube video. If you want more Peter Arnell lore, check out Into the Pepsiverse, the insane man behind Pepsi's awful logo redesign by S.J. Lem. I'll have a link to that in the description as well. But I didn't even want to do like any research into this. I literally, the only reason this episode exists is I wanted an excuse to read that long ass Pepsi pitch document to Bernie. That's the only reason this episode exists. I was just gonna do that off NETLORE. You know what I mean? I was just gonna do that as like a thing for funny, because I was like, but you know what? This deserves to be an episode of NETLORE. Like, I have an actual better NETLORE.
Thank you for finding an excuse to do this, because that was an insane fucking document.
Right? Isn't that funny as fuck? I still randomly think about shit like the Pepsi universe. It is absolutely insane. And again, that was a successful pitch. Like, Pepsi accepted that, and that guy got paid like $1 million to fucking do that crazy pitch document. So like,
He earned it. You know what? He worked hard for it.
it's all bullshit. Everything in this world is bullshit. Yeah, you know what I mean? Can you blame him? You should be mad at the Pepsi executives for falling for that bullshit.
He worked his ass off for that sale.
Hey, it worked, exactly. You know, anything that works.
Dude, he probably was so scared when that person like walked. Oh wait, no, I guess it wasn't a direct thing, but like imagining someone coming in and being like, "Hey, this is ridiculous. What are you guys talking about?" Like, he would have been so scared that like his entire cover was about to be blown.
He probably was just like, well, whatever. No one outside this stupid room of dumbass CEOs is ever even going to see this pitch document. He probably was not expecting it to get leaked online. We can leave it at that, I'll say. But yeah, that was, I know this was a bit of a shorter episode, a bit of a sillier episode of NETLORE.
The logo worked. It actually didn't look like awful.
I was gonna say now every time you look at a Pepsi, you'll remember that insane document, but you won't, because they're fucking replacing it this fall. They're getting rid of the classic Pepsi, the classic new Pepsi
It's
logo.
funny. I've had a Pepsi right next to me this whole time, and I didn't even notice.
That's what I was trying to say earlier with like how like the logo, it's getting constantly blasted in your retina. Like if you're not consciously noticing that you're seeing the Pepsi logo, but like it's just on a can next to you, it's like invisible because it's so omnipresent. You know what I mean?
I've never seen the smile before, but I see it now.
Right, yeah, exactly. I always still think of the fucking fat guy whenever I see the logo. Like I said, I remember that almost more than the craziness of just that pitch document. But it is, I don't know. I'm gonna be sad to see that the smile logo get discontinued, because now I'm attached to it. And now I love it. Now it's my favorite corporate logo, because I need to see some more of these like corporate pitch logos. I think they're probably more boring than that
You
one.
need a Nikocado version of the fat guy drawing.
Right, yeah, the red shirt. It is iconic. It's an iconic look. But yeah, that's basically all I had. I know, like I said, it was a little bit of a shorter one, but we can still go through the some fan art. Again, this is just what I could fit in.
Surfing the web.
I love this one. This one has great like dynamic energy with the computer and like the mouse and the keyboard. I think it was cool. And all the, like the little knickknacks representing episodes, like the grenade for the low tax and the fax lore and the Penders comic.
That is really cool.
And the Newgrounds. It's cool, and I like this one. It's just a cool energy to it. I like it. It's cool, and it's a good use of the logo. A lot of these we were talking earlier. A lot of people are good at using the logo. This one's another great use of the logo.
This one's crazy.
Background. Oh yeah. By the way, the last one was from Ven Art. I think I mentioned this on the last episode. I'm just going to say it again. I'm going to be crediting people with their Twitter handles, assuming they send it to me on Twitter. And I apologize if I say it wrong. You just have to accept that we're going to say it wrong. That's part of the charm.
Is there ever a moment we look this cool? I kind of don't think so.
The podcast is just two dorks talking about like hyper obscure internet crap, but all the fan art is like these two epic guys smoking weed and being cool, and I'm not complaining. I think it's awesome. I just think it's funny. This one, I love the sketchy little art of me, you, and Penders, three amigos. You have such a funny face in this
I look
one.
like a little Peanuts character. That's cool.
Definitely. This one I really like from Mirror XD.
They have the little LSD like Mickey Mouse acid thing.
Oh yeah, in the background
really
there's some of it's like the fax lore. Again, I always appreciate incorporating the episode things. This one from Salad Plain Zone was I like this one. Was this done in like not MS Paint, but it looks like it's from Mario Paint or something, like the intro to that. But like I love that they got it up on an actual CRT.
I know. I remember I used to take photos like this of what was on my Wii. I would play fucking Smash Bros. And it would just be like 2007 like consumer camera, like crusty, but that's really cool.
I always love a good picture of a CRT. It looks so cool when you get like super close and you can like see the actual like the phosphor tubes or whatever. Now this one I almost missed, but I thought this was hilarious because like look, you're like it's like a creepypasta. It's the use of the logo and your little guy at the same time. It's from Bolt X69420.
That's evil, dude. That's like fucking Bernie.exe, dude. What is that?
I know, perfect. I love it. And I'm Shadow, which is epic. Hell yeah. It's dark NETLORE.
Damaged Cyber Shell.
This one I like too, the Supersonic, Super NETLORE. We found the Chaos Emerald. This one's from Toon Ian Alt 1.
Blonde?
But no, it's cool. It's a good bit. This is the last piece of fan art I've included in today's episode. And I don't know why I love this one so much. It's by our pal Kibi.
I know. It's so funny. Dude.
I don't even know why I think this is so funny. It's not just because I'm a horse. Like, obviously that's funny. But it's like we both have this like extremely gormless look on our faces where we're just like, we both look confused about what's happening. It's really funny. I don't know why, but I was cracking up so hard.
I love it.
When I saw this. This is great.
I want that as like a sticker just to put on somewhere.
Yeah. That's a good one. I really, it's one of my top fave pieces of fan art, I gotta say. Get creative with it, guys. You can draw me as a horse. I mean, go nuts. But yeah, we don't have any fancy NETLORE news like last episode. Like, we're not like, someone was asking for an RSS feed. We'll look into that.
Yeah, we do have one with Spotify. I guess I'll put it in the description this time.
We do have one? Okay, yeah. We do have an RSS feed. That'll be in the description this time. So I guess there's a little piece of NETLORE news, but like I said, just a quick one, just a silly one. Better to have some weirder ones and staying regular with the upload schedule. Trust me. I know that's what people want.
Yeah, no, I like this episode. This episode was fun. I think it's just so fucking insane. Like, it never slows down. Really?
That pitch document, like I said, like I literally explicitly said, this whole episode is just an excuse to go through that document because I love it. I love it so much. It's so fucking funny. It's so great. I know there's people out there who, as soon as they saw like Pepsi logo, they instantly knew like, oh, they're just gonna be talking about that pitch document. And there's plenty of people who are probably just like, they see like an episode called the Pepsi logo. They're just like, what the fuck are they talking about? Well, I'll tell you what we're talking about. We're talking about that hilarious pitch document.
This is the true power of minimalism.
Exactly. All right, and I apologize that so much of this was visual heavy. If you are listening on Spotify, I promise my next episode will be way more audio information, less visual information. But yeah, thanks for hanging out again. Any final words, Bernie?
Thanks for all the fan art, guys, and thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening, and thanks for the fan art, and fuck you.